all, welcome to my channel DevOps Mela and welcome to my new tutorial video on Azure File. Okay, before we jump on and start understanding what exactly is Azure File Share, let's understand what exactly is file share. Okay, file share is basically sharing of files and folders over the internet using network. It could be private, it could be public. Okay, so if you go back and think of your traditional file share server, what exactly they were doing, they were responsible for storing and management of data files so that other computers on the same network can access those files. That was the traditional approach what we were following till now. We have used traditional on-prem file share servers. We have used network attached storage. These were getting mounted on your Windows and Linux OS, and that was getting shared across all your teams, all your developers. Now, what exactly this Azure file is different from this traditional file share? Now, Azure Files offers exactly the same thing. Right? I'm not denying that it is something different. It offers exactly the same thing with additional features, plus it takes care of all the management part, all the update upgrade part, plus the underlying infrastructure. So the biggest headache what we used to have when we maintain our own data center, when we maintain our own network storage, that once the storage is full, we need to go and procure it, again configure it. So there were good amount of work which we used to perform. All this work is completely taken out from the picture, and everything is getting managed by Microsoft itself. Now, what exactly is Azure File Share? Let's talk about that. Azure File Share offers fully managed file share in the cloud that are accessible via industry standard protocols such as SMB and Network File System, that is NFS, very well known, and also you can manage it using Azure File REST APIs. You can make use of Azure File REST APIs as well. Okay, what are the highlights? You can concurrently mount on cloud as well as on premises. So using with file share, this is not only will work on your cloud VMs, it will also work on your local data center VMs. You can concurrently mount on both the places. It supports various protocols such as SMB and NFS. Using SMB Azure files, we can access through Windows, Linux and Mac OS client, wherein if you're using NFS Azure files, we can access through Linux client. So these are the highlights. Now, why exactly do we use Azure files? Is it useful? What are the points? Replace or supplement on-prem file server. Azure files can be used to replace your traditional on-prem file server or network attached storages devices. Popular operating system such as Windows, Mac OS and Linux can directly be mounted on Azure file. Plus, we all know it is supporting all the various protocols like SMB and NFS, guys. What are the other feature? Lift and shift application. Azure file makes it very easy to lift and shift application to the cloud. Okay, that accept a file share to store application or user data. If you want to store any application or user data, you can directly lift and shift it over the file share. Containerization. Azure file share can be used as a persistent volume for your stateful containers. So if you're looking for a persistent volume, this is the best option which you can go with. Simplified cloud development process. So basically Azure files can also help you to simplify your cloud development project. You can share application settings. So if you have a common pattern for distributed application, so if you want to store your configuration files at a centralized location, you can use this file share. Diagnostic share, if you want to share any logs, application logs, anything as such, even metrics, anything as such, you can store it at Azure file share. It can also be used for dev, test and debug. Okay, so these are some important highlights what exactly Azure file share can do for you. Apart from it, there are other features, there are key benefits which I can talk about. It is very easy to use. Okay, you can share access with others. Okay, it is fully managed. As I said, this is a Microsoft managed file share. You can make use of PowerShell or Azure CLI for automatic scripting and tooling. This is highly resilient as it is backed by Microsoft SLA and familiar programmability. It supports all the familiar programmability. Okay, so these are the important features, benefits, and what exactly is file share. Now, what exactly we are doing today? Okay, how do we test this? So I'll be creating a file share first. Secondly, I'll be creating a Ubuntu VM, and I'll show you how do we mount that file share on Ubuntu. Then we'll see if the data is getting synced in a real time. Okay, so let's go and see this. So for doing this, guys, okay guys, I am logged into my portal. So the first thing is we need to go and create a storage account. Let's go and create a storage account. Let's use a different resource group. Let's name it as DevOps Mela-RG, and let's give a storage account name as DevOps Mela SA. It's taken, so let's use some numbers. Performance, I'll stick with premium because what exactly we're trying to do, we are trying to create a file share, then mount it or mount the file share on Ubuntu machine. So over the network I want to mount. So if you go and see the white paper, Azure storage account white paper, if you see standard, if you want support for network file system in Azure files, use the premium file share account. So in standard we'll not get this feature, so we'll have to stick with premium one. In premium, if you come down, there's an option of file share. This is the option you have to select. Redundancy, I'll stick with LRS. I'm not selecting anything else. Apart from it, nothing else is needed. So let's review and create. So what did I do? I have just created a storage account. I've selected file share, and I'm just creating a storage account with file share. First thing. Once this is created, the second thing is we'll create a Ubuntu VM, Ubuntu 1804 or Ubuntu 20. Anything will be fine, and we can go and mount this file share on top of it. As if I have not created any file share yet. This is just a storage account which we are creating right now. Let's wait while this is getting created, or let's come back once this is created, guys. Perfect. So if you see my storage account is created, I can go and look into it. It's a local redundant storage, account time file storage, and if you come to the data storage part, this is only file share. So let's go and create the file share. Let's create a new file share. Give whatever name you want, so I just name it as new file share. All should be in lowercase. Let's avoid keeping uppercase. Okay, provision capacity, it is selecting 1024 GB. No, I don't want this much, so I'll stick with 100. That is minimum what you can select. The minimum share size is 100 GB. Okay, so this is what I'm selecting. This is what the performance is: maximum IO, burst IO, throughput rate. Okay, this is what Azure is promising you. There are two protocols, SMB, NFS. So I want to mount this on my Linux VM, so I'll stick with NFS for now. Root squash. So root squash basically is a feature. It prevents remote root user to have super user privileges on file. If you have root squash enabled, then it will not let remote root user to have super user privileges on files. So it's better stick with no root squash and click on create. First part is done, guys. I have created a file share Now the second part is, let's go and create a Ubuntu VM. Let's click on virtual machine, Azure virtual machine. Let's select the same resource group, give a name, whatever name you want to give. For now, for simplicity, I'll just give VM1. East US Ubuntu 2004, size 1 vCPU, 1 gig of memory. I'll have password, so DevOps mailer password test at 1234567 8. Don't worry, after this video the VM will be deleted. Okay, ports I'll allow port 22 and port 80. Okay, 22 is to connect, port 80 is for HTTPS. Rest of everything remains as it is. The virtual network will be created, a public IP will be assigned. Perfect. Let's review and create my VM. Okay guys, let's come back once the VM is created. Okay, also if you see, my VM is also created. Let's quickly log into the VM to verify if everything is working as expected. So if you go and look, this is my public IP address. Let me open a bash shell. You can use DOS to connect, whatever way you like. You want to use putty, you can use putty. This is what I like. This is a git bash which I am using in order to connect to this VM. SSH DevOps mailer at the public IP. So let me see, let me make it bigger. Okay, perfect. So I'm able to connect. If you go and perfect guys, I'm able to connect. I'm inside the VM right now. This looks good. So two things done. I've created a storage account, I've created a file share with 100 GB of space. Now I've created a Ubuntu VM. Then a third part is wherein we need to mount the file share on the Ubuntu VM. Perfect. Now before I mount, how do I establish connectivity between my VM, which is one resource, and my storage account, which is other resource? There should be a connectivity between these two resources. How do I establish that connectivity? There are two ways you can do. You can make use of private endpoints or private links, or you can make use of service endpoints, through which you can establish the connection between these two Azure resources. Now I'm not covering endpoints in this guys. If you go on my channel, I have a video on Azure security. In Azure security, if you go and look into Azure endpoints, I have covered endpoints in a greater details. So if you have not subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe and please have a look into this video. Azure security, there are very interesting topics which I have covered, like key vault, connection, endpoints, defenders, XYZ. Okay, please go and look. Now for now, the only thing I have to do is go and create a, so I'll be using private endpoints to connect to these two resources. Okay, how do I do it? Go back to your storage account, go back to your file share. Now when you click on this file share, there are a couple of things which it will tell you to do. The first thing is network configuration. So the storage account is currently not configured for use from virtual network. So this is a network configuration. Second, secure transfer setting. So let's focus on network configuration. So if you see, there are multiple options. Create a private endpoint, secure access, public endpoint, or connect. If you want to connect to on-prem, it's altogether a different way of doing. Okay, what did I say? We'll stick with private endpoint. So let me stick with private endpoint now. Let's create a private endpoint. Same resource group, give a name. So I'll name it as file share PVT. Okay. Network interface PVT, region East US, resources. Target resource file. This is okay, no changes over here. Virtual network, I'll select the virtual network in which my VM is created, guys. So but this is the virtual network VM1 VNet which was created. I'll stick with default subnet because that is the only one I have right now. If you have created any other subnet and if your resources are hosted in that subnet, then make sure to select that subnet. Private IP configuration, I'll stick with dynamic. I don't want static. We don't have ASG, so I'll no ASG. For DNS, let's go on DNS. Okay, so private link subscription is selected. Let's go back, and if you see, the resource group is also selected. So everything is looking good. Done. Review and create. So we have the private endpoint created, we have the VM created, we have the connection established. The only thing is left. No, let's wait while the endpoint gets created because this may take time, like around a minute. So let's wait while the private endpoint is getting created. Now the only thing is left, we need to go and mount the file share on the Ubuntu machine. Okay, so let's wait and watch, and let's come back once this private endpoint is created. Okay guys, so even the private endpoint is created. If you want to go and have a look, this is how my private endpoint looks like. Now what next? Let's do a mount. How do we mount? Go to your storage account, go to file share. There's one more setting which we need to do, guys. Let's go to the file share. So we have this network configuration taken place. Now this secure transfer setting, what exactly is this? Let's go back and see. Now you need to disable secure transfer. Okay, for now NFS file share is not providing any type of security during transit, hence you need to go and disable this. Keep this in mind. Okay, once this is done, now we can go and possibly mount if there's nothing left. Okay, let's go to your file share again. Looks good. Okay, perfect. Now this is the steps, guys. You just need to copy paste the steps on your Linux Ubuntu machine and the things will be mounted. Now there are distributions. If you are using CentOS, RHEL, SUSE, then this is the steps which you can follow. You can change and have the specific steps, like C in CentOS, this is the step. Now go back to Ubuntu because we have Ubuntu machine. Let's run this command. I've just copied this all over. Now let's paste it. Let's wait while the other commands are running. This is the mount path. So basically this is the directory what we need to create. Let's run this even. Let me copy this path and let me create a directory. So this is the NFS utilities what we are downloading, guys. NFS common, because we are using NFS to mount, so we need to have NFS on the system. Done. Let's wait. And this is all we are doing on 1 gig of memory and 1 vCPU Linux Ubuntu machine. That's why I love Linux. Let's wait and watch while this is getting triggered. Processing triggers. Okay, meanwhile let me copy this task and keep it on a notepad while we are still waiting. We copy this task. This is just creating a directory. Is it done? Perfect. Now let's create this directory. So we have created a mount DevOps Mela 123 based on my storage account name, a new file share. This is my file share name basically. Now this is how this will be mounted. The protocol NFS, this is the DNS name of my file share, and this is where exactly my file share is. I'm mounting it on this particular location, okay, with different parameters. Let's go and copy this and put it over here. This is just an FYI, a temporary mount, not a permanent mount. If the system gets restarted, rebooted, then the mount will be removed. If you want to do a permanent mount, you need to go and edit the FS tab. Okay, keep that in mind, guys. You need to put this entry into FS tab. Okay, this is done. Now how do we verify if this is done? I can simply go mount grep and I can look for NFS. Perfect. This is my things are mounted right now. Okay, now how do we test this? For testing, let's go inside this folder first. Let's go inside this folder. Okay, I'm inside the mounted folder right now. What I can do, I can create a test file, something like this, and in this file what I can do you have any data? Yeah, I have some random data, so I'll put this random data inside this. Perfect, quite a big data I have. Now let's save it. Now if I quickly verify, I got this data and this is the storage size. Okay, now I can create one more. So what I can do, I can simply copy the same thing with a different name. So ABC, something like this. So I have two files now. So basically I'm trying to have couple of files so that it takes couple of space, and it should reflect on my file share whether this is created under file share or it is getting created on my VM disk. Now if I go back to my file share, refresh this, go to properties, come down, do you see the use capacity right now? 3.93 KB basically. Okay, now this is, so whatever files we are creating, these files are getting created on my file share. Now if I want to mount this file share on some other Linux machine, I can easily do it, and even they can share the same files. Now one more testing I want to do, if it is getting created on my file share, what I can do, I will unmount it and I'll see if the files are still visible in this path or not. Okay, can we test that way? Yeah, how do we unmount? Unmounting, I can just need to remove these protocols and just run this command with umount. Okay, let's try this. Okay, I don't need the ending also. Let's remove all this. Not mounted. So basically if I go and check mount grep NFS -I NFS, there's nothing right now. Now let's go to the path and see if we have the files. So if the files are created on the disk, we should see the files. If the files are not created on the disk, we should not see the file. As simple as that. Now let me ls, no files, total 0. So yeah, so we are rest assured that the files were created on the file share. Now again, mounted again. Okay, the commands are gone. Okay, the commands are gone, then no worries. I can do a control R, sudo mount. Okay, here we go. We have the commands now. Run it. I can even try mount grep -I NFS. So yeah, again mounted. Do we have the files? ls -l. we don't have the files, so there is some issues, guys. Let's go back, come back to the folder, and did we do the perfect mount? Okay, I was there inside the folder while mounting. Yes, we have the file. It got refreshed. Okay, we have the file. So these are the checks what we did in order to make sure that we have mounted the file, we have created the file on file share, not on my local disk. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you very much. Please do like, share and subscribe. Please put in your thoughts in the comment box, and if you want me to create any new videos, any specific topics, please do let me know. Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for your time. Bye bye.